I couldn't stream on Thursday and Friday because I was dog sitting for
Yeah.
Finley. Mom,
How'd it go?
I thought Bo was bad about sniffing and stuff. He and I did a full lap around the apartment complex. He did not poop once. I was like, Finley, we gotta figure this out. So I had to take him out about 4 times on. So I
Yeah.
had him Thursday and a Friday.
Right.
So man, everything he was sniffing, and then he was going in the mud because we had the bad storm beforehand, right? So he's in the mud. I had to wash his feet. I had to stop him from going on everything. But the best part was, I didn't realize that Finley has to sleep with a light on. Like, I didn't realize, like, he doesn't like pitch dark, right? My apartment is pitch dark at night. Mom, it's like 3 a.m. And I have,
It's
so,
called pitch black
pitch
dark.
black, sorry. Still slowly waking up here. But, so my bathroom has that.
2 o'clock.
Yeah, I know, but we were up pretty late. I was up late with Mike. Um, uh, so the way my bed is situated is, if you remember when you took my bed when you guys were here, there's
Yeah.
the night light in the bathroom,
Yep.
right? So I had it open and it creates a shadow, right? So Mom, it's like 3 a.m. I turn over and I just see the shadow of Finley's head with the light behind it. I was like, I had to do like oh my God, like what is this? And then I realized it's Finley and he's like waiting for me to like turn a light on or something.
Aw.
So I ended up sleeping with him on the couch. So I was
Oh,
on the couch. Luckily, that's a California king, so he slept at my feet. But
right. How was it? Was it comfortable?
yeah, that couch is very comfortable.
Oh, good.
It's like it's stiffer than my bed too, and I kind of didn't mind that because my bed's
Okay.
not stiff. It's the complete opposite. So
Right.
yeah, then he and I. Oh, the other thing was I couldn't figure out what he wanted, and he started not doing the bark, but he goes, "Oh!" And while everyone's
Yeah.
sleeping, I was like, "Finley, we can't be doing this at 3 a.m." So it took him a little bit, but then we ended up just passing out on the couch at like 3 a.m.
Right.
So
When I had him for those few nights, I'd bring him back to grandma's and he would sleep on the mat in the hallway outside grandma's guest room so he could see down the hall where her front door is and into the room where I was sleeping.
oh
He tried to go on the sofa bed, but I don't know, he wasn't comfortable. This is what, a year and a half ago? But yeah, he found his little niche, his spot. I mean, it was fine. He left me alone and he slept.
yeah, it was tough because I could not get him to. I couldn't get him to do anything. Like I wanted him to go. He liked going out, but he would just sniff everything, and then maybe he would pee. But we did a full lap around the apartments, and about 3/4 of the way, he just stopped and he would not move. He was like, "I'm done walking."
I was telling Mike that it's the weirdest dog. So when we were up at grandma's, Bo likes to go all over at grandma's place
Yeah.
and her condo
So
place.
so real fast, guys. The dog Finley is the bigger version of our dog Bo, which everyone's seen. So he's a doodle. So he's like 75 pounds, but he's built like Joe Dirt. He's got a mullet and everything. We call him Mr. Big Head. I'll send it.
Right.
I'll
And
show
so
you a
when I
picture.
would take him, and he's bigger, so keep that in mind.
Yeah.
I would take him for a walk at grandma's. He would only go down one end of the street and the other end of the street. Like, are you kidding me, dog?
Yeah.
So we kept walking back and forth over between like 3 houses. I go, this is embarrassing, dog. He wouldn't go past. He was too afraid. I don't know what it was, but again, this was like a year and a half ago. So what was he? Maybe almost 2 years old. And I'm so used to just going all over. You get spoiled with Bo because he is compulsive. He's very set with his routine. But it's nice to have that because, as long as I meet the time, he's going to do what he has to do.
Yeah.
Very rarely will he not do what he has to do at a certain time. Finley can be like that. I guess dogs in general, too, if they don't know you.
Yeah.
Yeah, they get used to you like everything else. They're not comfortable until they know you. But he kind of knows you. You don't know his routine, though.
Yeah, I don't know his routine, and I mean, I took him out 4 times on Thursday night. So throughout the day. So I was like, I think he has to poop, but he didn't.
Right.
But I thought he would do well in the apartment because he's been to the apartment before. But then you realize how big he is, and he doesn't have that much space. But he just sat on the guest bed for most of the day.
Oh, okay.
And then he
Okay.
would just. Finley doesn't bark. He just kind of goes.
Yeah.
He's also scared of everything. Everything. The second
learn
those
that
ones-
walking him. I'm
Yeah.
like, why aren't we going any further, dog? He's too afraid. He can't go past the house. He can't go past the property line. I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yeah,
Which for him, he's such a big dog. He needs that exercise to wear him out, especially back then.
Right.
Like, are you kidding me? So we would go back and forth because I had to wear him out. It's the
Yeah.
most boring thing ever.
He wasn't very energetic, I guess. Like he wasn't trying to. He liked going out, but besides that, he just kind of sat there on the bed. I was nervous
Right.
in here because now that I have my PC up on the table over here, all the
Yeah.
wires are in the back, and I couldn't afford to have him knock that over. Otherwise,
Right.
I don't even know what would have happened. But yeah, so
Yeah,
luckily,
it's not a
oh,
surprise.
yeah, it wasn't too bad.
Yeah.
We got through it. If I had to do a week, it might have been a little rough, but
Well, I had the. Give me a second. Okay.
yeah.
Is that too loud? That fan?
I don't hear it yet.
Okay. If I had to do like I had to do a week that time, and he was not really in a routine, he was a real pain.
Yeah,
It's like
that sucks.
losing it. I was losing it because I'm not his main caregiver. He wouldn't walk on time. I didn't know he had a routine, but he was fighting me on the routine. And that was back when he wouldn't walk with a leash. He
Oh.
didn't like a leash. I mean, if the neighbors were watching me, they must have thought I was a dog abuser or something because I just kept going back and forth, stopping every 2 feet to tell him stop, trying to train him to walk. It was just what a production. And Sue couldn't get home fast enough from that softball tournament.
Right, that's right. Yeah, the other thing was the other weird thing that I'm not used to because we do this with Bo. Bo eats his food out all at once. Finley will eat a
Oh,
little
no.
bit and then walk away and then come back. And I was like, "Are you done?" And then you take his food away. He's like, "Where the hell is it?"
Yeah.
So that one took a little getting used to because I think I threw his food away too early the first night, and he was like, "What are you doing, dude?"
Yeah. Bo is way too fast, but then again, grazing's not very good either. They
Yeah.
say it's not very healthy. Although Finley's not overweight, but that grazing, that would drive me crazy. I think Bo eats too fast, like I said. Half an hour. Like when Bo was a puppy, they had said, put the food out. If he doesn't eat in half an hour, take it away. So you kind of train them to eat within a
Within
period
that
of time.
yeah.
But I think Finley had a lot of issues when he was a puppy, throwing up and not adjusting to food. And then they started doing this, but they could probably close the gap if they want to. But I guess at this point, they don't really care.
Yeah. So that was basically my last 2 days. That's why I wasn't streaming Thursday, Friday because of his schedule, which he eats at weird times. So, and I couldn't risk him barking with all the neighbors and stuff because I don't want to be
Yeah.
that neighbor. So that I had to go back and forth to their house and here. So
We're supposed to watch Happy for a week at the beginning
yes.
of
Happy's easy though.
September. Well, she's easy, but then again, Aunt Linda's gonna drop her off for an afternoon just so she doesn't go cold turkey the first time they go away, which is a good idea. I'm more interested to see how Bo does with somebody else in the house.
Yeah. So
He's had the cat
Happy
here, but
is, how do we describe Happy to people? Happy is a small dog that's had a lot of health issues and has one eye. So she,
yeah, but sweet.
yeah, she's just,
She has high maintenance just because she has some health issues.
yeah.
And I don't think she does much in terms of, I don't think you have to
Yeah.
walk her. I think you just take her out. I probably would walk her here. But having said that, Bo is very, not territorial, but possessive, I would say,
Yes.
no matter where we
That
go.
that is the definition of Bobo.
Yeah, so I don't know if, we'll see how he does. I have to give him attention, but I don't want Happy to be, like neglected.
Yeah.
She's-
Well, what I find funny about Happy, right? Because Happy has all the hearing issues, she's got eye issues, she's got everything. When Bo barks or any other dog barks, then she feels like she has to bark. That I always like. She doesn't know what's going on, but she's like, oh, oh.
Oh, that's
So,
funny.
yeah.
Not used to that noise.
So she's
Well,
gonna stay. So she's staying at our house.
She will stay here from the 1st to the 5th, or some
Oh, that'll be
combination of
fun.
those days. But they're just going to drop her off for an afternoon next week or the week after to get her used to
that'll
it
be
for maybe
fun.
a couple hours. Yeah, that'd be fine. I think that's a good idea. I'd also like to see how, she is to handle with her medications and stuff. I'm not sure
Yeah, what she
how
has to take.
intense it is. Yeah, they have a breathing thing for her and
Yeah, she got a
whatnot.
little
But
inhaler.
yeah, we did have the fox in the yard last night. We've had a
Whoa.
lot of rain too. And early, it's like twilight time. We were looking outside. Bo was like all over it. Oh, the fox in the yard, and was running up our hill in the back. Mike and I kind of yelled at it, and soon we slammed the door, it went away. I was hoping it wasn't around, so I definitely can't have Happy in the back at all. I don't want to encounter any fox with her.
Yeah, I don't think she
I
can
love
see
Bo.
it. I don't think she can see it or smell
Right,
it. Yeah.
right. Well, I mean, it's more risk for the dog. Like Bo thinks he's gonna chase that. I'm like, you're out of your mind. You're not going anywhere near a fox,
Yeah.
especially during the day.
Yeah. A mangy fox or whatever. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Fox
But
was pretty, but it still was, I don't like having those in my yard. They're good with controlling the population of rodents. But then again, we get so many cats from the neighborhood now.
Yeah, that's
We look
true.
back to this different colored cat every time. I don't know what they're doing. So yeah.
Yeah, but that was pretty much my week, or at least the second half of the week. Got some
Mhm.
recordings done, and that was so. Yeah, that's pretty much it. That's all I did. A lot of
Yeah.
editing, working on some mini projects, but yeah. So, all right, Mom. I don't even
We had
know.
our usual routine.
Yeah, where do you want to start today? I don't even. I'm not sure where to start today. I mean, we could
I,
go right through.
I thought we were going through the election just because it was a big week because the DNC candidate chose her
Pete,
VP
right? Yeah.
running mate
God,
and
it feels like so
really
long ago, but that was
unprecedented.
literally beginning of the week that she picked Tim Waltz or whatever his name is.
Goes very fast.
Um,
The election time.
yeah, I'm trying to think
We
of how I
change
want
every day.
to put this into. Do you want to do media giving record pass? The other, which one do you want to start with?
I was more intrigued by the USA Today article because USA Today is not, it's an opinion piece. It's not really a conservative paper.
Which one's the
That's
USA Today?
uh
Oh, I found it. I found it. We're good. That's the one I'm on.
media
One
keeps
second.
giving her a pass.
Yep. Let me just. God, I don't know why I'm like struggling with Discord today.
She seems
Share
unburdened by
screen.
her.
There we go.
Yeah. So this individual, a female writer, right? I'm trying to find her name. Yeah, Ingrid Jacks. Um, like I said, USA Today is not really known to be a conservative paper, if you will. And she's kind of like a somewhat blistering article, I would say, that media is talking about how much the media is really helping her with the campaign.
Oh,
It went
100%.
from they disliked her to she was a flop as a vice president to now she's the progressive champion. So apparently their rules for Kamala is she's only allowed on a teleprompter, no questions, no formal press conference, and will the honeymoon period continue with her as time goes by? She seems to feel the same thing a lot of people do. The debate's going to be very telling because any of these debates, the ABC one will probably be very, very formal, and odds are she'll get the questions ahead of time.
Right.
But we'll see about the other debates if she ever agrees to them. The
Yeah.
Fox News, and I forget what the other one was, NBC.
Can I pause you real fast, Mom? That fan is
Yep.
way too loud. I can't really
Okay.
hear. But for some reason, this isn't like the article just keeps disappearing.
Oh,
Opinion, close.
yeah.
Huh. That was weird.
So anyhow, it was just talking about the what's so bizarre is what's been happening. She's really the media has main media totally hands off for her. She hasn't approached the press. She hasn't taken any serious questions, and they're okay with it. So that's totally complicit. How can you have a candidate that you don't question, that you don't, and now you have a vice president that they picked who's got so many problems. Um,
Yeah.
they have to start answering some questions
So
because
that's what I kind of wanted to start this one with. I don't know much about this guy. I see all the stolen valor stuff, how he lied about being part of the military or got to a certain point in the military, how he left his men behind. How much of that
yeah,
is true and how much of it is just I can't find good answers on here. Can I tell you what's scary actually, besides the point and kind of a side thing? I've been trying to look for answers on things, just like things in general. It's becoming a lot harder to find real answers or right
yeah,
answers. Like everything's either an opinion and no facts, or it's this is what I think happened.
yeah.
There's no facts anymore, especially in politics. But also sometimes I'll just look at certain things. Like I'm trying to think of what a good example. Oh, the boxer that we were talking about, the one that just won gold.
Yes.
Why can I not find documents or something on this person? Why is it all opinion pieces? I'm pretty good at looking up factual stuff, but for some reason
Right.
it's becoming harder and harder.
Yeah. Because they don't want you to know the facts. They want everything to be
But
opinions. Well, it's very telling. His story about stolen valor, and a person was giving context to you and me when we haven't been in the military and we haven't lived in that world. The military is very specific about your title, your position, your rank, right?
yep,
You can't really play around with that. because it's not vague. It's not like a VP at a bank is very different than a VP at, a corporate company or a non-financial company. Military is what it is, and he claimed to be a certain level. He was the head of the National Guard for or he was involved in the National Guard for many, many years. Long story short, right after 9/11, everybody knew we were going to at some point go overseas, and they knew that the National Guard was going to be deployed, and he dropped out right before that, before they went overseas. But somehow he managed to retain his title. So if you look at the story and get the facts of it, the military people, they don't like that. They don't care for that. You don't take glory away. And it's very telling to say, well, one word over the other. Already the campaign has whitewashed his military service that they touted when he first started, and now they're taking that off the platform.
Right.
And on top of it, he made a comment about taking weapons into war, and lo and behold, there's proof that he never carried a weapon into any war. So now they're starting to backpedal on that. So obviously, at a minimum, he's embellished his record. If you talk to some military people, he outright lied about things that were not appropriate. Even CNN is questioning. He was a little loose with the facts, is what Van Jones was saying. And, I think a lot of American citizens are getting a little sick of the loose with the facts with everybody. Too many people are getting a pass. They're making stuff up, and people getting tired of it, especially now when this is supposed to be Mr. Wonderful, Mr. Be-All. They're trying to paint him as a moderate. He is the governor of the city that literally burned down during the George Floyd riot. So that's the city that started it all, the summer of quote-unquote love, that Kamala Harris set up a fund to bail all those individuals out. Still isn't part of that fund, to bail individuals out who caused those riots. Hopefully, the Trump campaign will keep highlighting that, as well as the RNC, because people need to understand. If it happens again, can you trust these individuals to save our nation, or will they let these cities burn? Right. He let his city burn, literally burn. Small shop owners, or even now, and people who were there at the time, journalists on the ground, even they're saying, nobody even knows the full story of when it went on, because the media were covering up so much of the bad stuff. A lot of the small shop owners, they had to arm themselves. Yeah. And this is a guy who, doesn't believe in guns and Second Amendment. He squashed that. He's also signed legislation for any sort of transgender health care, his words, at any age, any time. And he's also abortion up to birth. Well, so he's very radical.
The one that I saw too, which was, this is how much stupidity there is. And I shouldn't say stupidity, but this is where you hear something and then you don't think ahead. And I noticed this with a lot of the Democratic, not politicians, but a lot of the Democratic people. So he had a bill that was free lunches for all students, right?
Right.
At first thought, you go, oh my God, that's great. Who pays for the lunches? Right? That's the part that people forget. Yeah, taxes. Yeah. So it's not a free lunch. Someone's paying for it. Like when people hear free stuff, and I notice this a lot with the woke Democrats. I'm not going to say all Democrats, but someone has to pay for that. It's not just, farmers don't have to get paid. It's just, we're going to take it, right? So someone's paying for it, just not the kids, of course, or their families. But the idea that, to your point, I didn't know much about him in the start, but now that I'm seeing all this stuff coming out, I saw the big headlines that was like stolen valor and all this stuff, but I didn't see exactly what he did. I saw something about leaving troops behind, leaving his men or something.
He's also, his new nickname is Tampon Tom.
Yeah, because he
wanted to put the tampons in the boys' bathroom.
Yeah.
Okay. Even Hillary Clinton was touting that. She got wrecked online by people mocking her for saying that they actually pulled it down. I don't know if it's officially her, but that's his mentality. He's an extremist, a lefty extremist who believes in that stuff. So it's not even like, they can use the bathroom of their gender, but we're going to put tampons in there for little boys. What little boy who identifies as a boy needs that?
Needs a tampon.
A boy that is a woman, maybe psychologically they'd be using the women's bathroom because he's allowed that too. Right. So it's absurd on its face of why he would even do that. And that's taxpayers' dollars funding those things. Doesn't sound like a lot, but trust me, that's probably tens of millions of dollars to do that in the public schools of Minnesota, to put those things in.
Yeah, he's just kind of a weird guy from what I've seen. From a non-political standpoint, just from what I've seen in like past posts that he's had. He's just a weirdo. But
Well, for anybody, if you take a step back, for anybody looking at the campaign this time, the overall arch, I don't care if you support the Democrat, Republican, it really is a freak show on the Democratic side in the sense that their candidate was never voted for by anybody. They had primaries and nobody voted for her. And they're all touting her like she's, the next, she'd get more attention than Barack Obama did. 2 months ago, people called her like the worst VP ever,
yeah,
even in her own party.
That's the part that, I mean, every streamer, YouTuber saying the same thing, whether you're a Democrat or Republican. No one saw her for like 6 months, right? She had nothing. Then she comes out of the woodwork, and she was still the least liked person in especially VP. But remember, she had a lower polling in likability than
yeah.
Hillary Clinton. And now all of a sudden, as Joe Rogan said, and I think we talked about it last time, all of a sudden she's going to be the hero that brings us back. She doesn't have any policies yet. She's just kind of throwing shit at the wall and hopes it sticks. And then she has these big rallies, and then we find out last week that she's paying people to be there. Right? Someone's paying for that. You saw the streamers, right? So Aiden Ross did the big live stream with Trump, which got 100 million views, which is a lot for a live stream past video. That's a crazy number. And then I guess the Secret Service and Kamala Harris team reached out to Kai Cenat to do some kind of collaboration, and Kai Cenat's like, no, I don't like you, stop calling me. And then she tried with another streamer. I never heard of that streamer, but I guess he's pretty big, and he was like, no, I don't like you. It's just funny, like, where are these people coming from?
I've sent in some of those articles of they're trying to pay influencers. They're reaching out to people, and they want to pay them to support her. I'm sure many of them will do it because it's money, and they may not care, and some of them may support her, so they might get some money out of it. But when you have them turning around saying, no, I don't want to, don't bother reaching out to me anymore. One guy, I believe it's the one you said, he was getting annoyed because they kept reaching out.
Yeah. So, not to mention all the rallies that they have that have all these people. Well, the Meg Thee Stallion concert was everyone left after the concert part, right? And then more than half the stadium leaves. Then they did another one recently. Did you see the one that's at that airport? Right, it's the plane. I don't know if you saw it, but it's a lot of people for Harris, and then there's kind of a plane in the background.
Yeah, we've all messed up. I heard it was a logistical nightmare.
Yeah, it was a lot of it was AI. They found out that picture was AI generated for a certain part of it. So now the question.
I just saw an article where they spoke to some of the people there, and they were complaining about, we don't know where to go. They haven't told us anything, blah, blah, blah. Well, she doesn't do a lot of them, or they don't do a lot of them compared to Trump that has made it a business for the, I mean, they run that show tight, Yeah,
that's the beauty of kind of the years and years of doing it for Trump, right? He's done rallies before even 2016? 2016
yeah,
into 2018?
we're right back where we were 4 years ago and 8 years ago with Trump's doing these massive rallies consistently everywhere he goes. And the Democratic candidate has these pathetic, either in the basement or it's a high school gym with 300 people, or now they're doing AI. And the media goes, oh, what an explosion. People love her. So, I don't know what else for people looking at mainstream media. Open your eyes, whether you like the candidate or not. You got to wake up to the fact you're being played here.
I should say, though, that what the generated picture was alleged. People were going through it, and they were like, some of the pictures, some of the phones are like copy and pasted over, and it's possible, but also you need some kind of computer to tell us if that's generated or not. But
and you have to ask yourself, are some of these individuals getting paid to go? Nobody's paying to go to Trump's, and sometimes I don't know if he was paying. He was doing tickets for a while there just to control the crowd a little bit, but if he's not paying them, whatever. I just say, are they being paid to go to this? She couldn't pack a high school gym 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, now all of a sudden.
So I think when they realized that there might be some concerted effort to quote unquote get the vote, get the people, the head count out. I don't know. I'm alleging this. But having said that, this is something she hasn't even put out a policy yet. And we talked last time. I don't know what policies she could run on legitimately. Yeah. Anything she was proud of, go ahead, put it out there. Make it because the majority of Americans want this.
My favorite part is the flip-flopping, right, to gain votes. So one with the accents. Everywhere she goes, she's changing her accent, which is hilarious. The second thing is, right, she came out of the gates saying, we'll do an open border, right? So like open up
Right.
the border. Then literally, I think earlier today, she's like, we're gonna close the border.
Yeah.
So she's trying to like almost make her campaign around what she's hearing from the quote unquote fans or the people. And
Yeah.
one does poorly, they wipe it from the internet. She does the other thing, and maybe it does better. So that I find funny.
Yeah.
The flip flop, like
Well,
there's
I mean, the
no
media, look, the media is beyond pathetic now, and I say the mainstream media because they all screamed. They're literally 5 months ago. She's the border czar, border czar. Now they're turning around and saying she was never the border czar.
yeah.
I mean, I really have to question American citizens. If you watch that every night, don't you scratch your head? I mean, the Department of Justice, this is how bad it is. They just announced this week that they are going to prosecute, now that Joe Biden's out of office, they're going to prosecute Hunter Biden for taking funds from a foreign country. Okay? The same media that was screaming about that and the DOJ that didn't want to touch it. And here we are. I don't know what else to say to American citizens other than look what's in front of you and make an educated decision.
Right.
You don't have to go to college. You don't have to go to high school. And I'm starting to say they were actually using what I think it was a week ago, and you see it all the time now, calling J.D. Vance and Donald Trump weird.
Yeah.
That was their campaign thing. They're both weird.
I will say JD
And
Vance is a little weird. I kind of
like,
agree.
that's fine. You can have an opinion about that. But I said to Michael, if my kid was running for student government in the 5th or 6th grade and their campaign was Judy Smith is weird, I'd say,
That's
you
a
know what?
good
That's
point.
pathetic.
Yeah, that's a good point.
That's name calling. Give me some substance. Why are you better than Judy Smith or whatever? How immature is that? And now they have their moronic lefties out on the streets with signs that say, Trump is weird. They're weird. What is that? I mean,
Yeah.
as an American citizen, we're not that stupid. Give me something, some meat. I'm fine with Make America Great Again. Give me something. Weird? Really? That's
Yeah,
the
weird's not a
best you
great
can come up
answer.
with? So, I mean, just overall, even if I love the Democratic Party, I just look at it like this is an absolute disaster. And they keep trying, it's the brainwashing continues. Oh, no, it's great. It's wonderful. Vote for her. It's wonderful. This is fabulous.
Yeah.
She's going to be great.
Well, this goes back to what
Okay.
I talked about last week, where it's like she's got the only thing she has to run on is I'm not Trump. That is literally the whole campaign. She doesn't have any policies yet. She doesn't have. She was hoping Tim Walz would like really help her out, but all it has is dug up his past, and now that's questionable. So it's just getting. I don't think Tim Walz was the right answer for this one. I think you.
Oh, no, that's definitely a bad pick.
Yeah.
I think this is
I
gonna
would have thought they were
really
gonna. I was
on
pretty
that.
sure they were gonna pick Buttigieg or whatever.
No, they were talking about Josh Shapiro, who's the
Shapiro,
governor of
yeah.
Pennsylvania, but he's Jewish. And they don't want a Jewish person, believe it or not. I mean,
Really?
that's they alleged they didn't want to pick a Jewish candidate because of all the Hamas and the
Oh, I guess
anti-Israel.
that's that kind of makes sense, I guess. But from a perspective of trying to win and look good,
Well, it doesn't help with your Jewish vote
Yeah.
because you turn down, I'm not saying she's anti-Semitic, but it certainly is political.
yeah,
I think it's a joke that the vice president who was picked by Joe Biden because she was a black female is looking for a white straight male.
yeah,
Those are all the contenders. Maybe we talked about that last week, but I mean, it's just bizarre to me. I don't care who the person is as long as they're,
Oh, you know what else?
Walz is, he was the governor of a state that voted for him. I don't remember his election, but if you're going to choose that candidate, don't try and shove him down our throats as some sort of moderate. And already within 1 week, you got your own part or your own CNN, for instance, saying,
I don't
there
know.
are some questions about him. Give it a week. They're going to talk him up like he's wonderful and everything was false. And, I can't help citizens who read this stuff or see it in front of them and they don't have an intelligent thought about
You know
it.
who I feel hurt her the most? Did you see the husband comes out endorsing her? Right, so her husband, and he's got the whole "I'm so supportive." He's got a Kamala Harris shirt, and then they dig up his past, and he had a affair with his daughter's teacher or something like that.
Nanny.
Yeah,
the nanny.
nanny who was also a teacher. Did you see
Right.
that? Yeah, like that's wild. Had an affair
She's
and a
not
kid.
the only one, apparently.
Yeah, and had
There are
a
others
kid.
allegedly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, real supportive.
You know what was really bizarre? I read another article where the day she announced that she was going to be the presidential candidate in place of Joe, he was at some gym in Los Angeles and found out and he's like, oh, yeah, it's great. Like he wasn't there with her.
So
So
supportive.
obviously it's an unorthodox relationship or not your standard, relationship. Having said that, I don't vote based on stuff like that, to be
Yeah.
honest. I really
I just
don't
thought that was
care.
funny because it's like you're so supportive, but then you have this affair that wasn't that long ago.
No, no, wait a minute. He had the affair with his first wife. She's his
Oh,
second
okay.
wife.
I take it back then. I take back what I said. I
Yeah.
did not realize that. I was told
Yeah.
that I hey, should have done the research. I was off. I
Yeah.
apologize.
The one that allegedly had the affair was Kamala Harris with Mr. Willie Brown, who was still married at the time. Maybe separated, I don't know. But Trump recently had a woman on the stage in Georgia who made the comment to the effect, let's talk about family values. Let's
Yep.
ask Mrs. Willie Brown how she feels about Kamala and family
Yeah.
values.
I apologize to
Simple
Kamala
information.
and the husband. I feel bad now. False information.
Oh,
My fault.
don't worry about that. They won't.
um,
Who knows what else goes on? You might not be too far off. We just
yeah,
don't know it yet,
true, true. Uh, Speaking of media not covering stuff, did you see what happened in Georgia with the voter fraud? Did you see that the governor came out and was like, "I owe President Trump an apology"? Did you see this?
Yeah, a little too late. He owes the American citizens apologies too.
Yeah.
Man lost an election because of that.
Because of Georgia. Yeah. So Georgia, they found it was an obscene amount of votes that were just miscounted 4 years later. Thanks, guys. So you can now there's a fair argument, right? All the people. For those of you that were questioning voter fraud, I mean, when the guy comes out and says, "Oh yeah, we messed up," and you're still saying
Yeah.
there's no voter fraud, now we have to start asking some questions here. But yeah, I mean, I don't know if that would have won the election for him, but like I don't know
It
if
would have given him Georgia, and he would have gotten those electoral votes.
okay, well, so then yeah,
That's why the president of the United States at the time made that call to them that they tried to impeach him on, where he said, "You need to go figure this out because there are more votes there, or you got to clean it up." I forget the actual verbiage. And they tried to impeach the president over that because he was trying to threaten them in the election. Whereas, no, that's not what he was doing. He knew the fraud was there, and his point was, you better go. And this was a governor, a Republican to a Republican governor. And Kemp was nowhere to be found, and you had Raffensperger, his, what the hell is he, Secretary of State or the attorney, whatever he is, not doing a damn thing. And now here we are, 4 years later, right?
yeah.
And, oh, yeah, by the way, we made a
By the way,
mistake. You're
Biden
gonna
probably
see
would have
this-
lost. Yeah,
You're going
that's
to see
a
this in a lot of states. Yep.
yeah. The ones that pursue it, I doubt Arizona even bothers. But
Oh, Arizona just voted out the Richter guy, the one who was running their elections and screwed up 2022, where they had the long lines and the machines and the wrong and all the only in Republican districts the machines all broke. Remember that?
oh,
in
that's
the
right. Yeah, I
Senate
didn't
one.
forget about
Yeah.
that.
So they just booted him out finally. Guy was beyond making too many mistakes for somebody responsible for that. Republican, they got rid of him. But no, you're seeing it. Virginia is coming down hard. I give Glenn credit. He's going back to paper ballots.
Good.
He's getting very strict about who's voting, where they're voting. More have to do this before the next election. There's not a lot of time left. Voting will start, I think, in some states very early, the mail-in stuff. So
Gotcha.
we'll see.
Yeah, I think that's. I mean, we can go down the politics even more, but I don't have too much political stuff, as I said. So, I mean, is there anything else you want to say?
No, I mean, we covered the two I sent you about the influencers,
Yeah.
right? Trying
Yeah.
to
So
either.
this hurts them so much because you failed on two big influencers. So anyone that's on like a lower scale than those two, Kai Cenat and the other guy,
Yeah.
I mean, everyone's just gonna be like, "Did you pay to get on here? Did you, I didn't realize, but Aiden is friends with Barron, so that's how the Trump got onto the stream with him. Had that 100 million stream. So you can't say, "Oh, well, did Trump pay Aiden?" Because it turns out him and Barron are just
No, I was
friends.
gonna say Aiden's not paying. Trump's not paying anybody for that.
Yeah,
He's not gonna buy that. He doesn't pay. Trump is cheap.
yeah, he really is.
He's not wasting money on stuff. They come to him usually. I mean, he'll pay for other stuff, but it's not like he's not going out pandering. Anybody should, I mean, learn from Aiden's experience. Put Trump anywhere and people are going to watch it. Even people that don't like him will watch it because they're going to look for him to slip up. That's a win-win for people, influencers who put him on. But no, he doesn't have to pay for it. Another reason why I say to individuals, big picture here. One candidate is getting the attention, the other one has to buy it.
Right.
you got to question how valid is what you're getting from their platform. So,
Yeah, interesting. But okay, let's do one that's kind of fun. I like this one. So this
okay.
is a cool one. Tech companies want nuclear power. Some utilities are throwing up roadblocks. I thought this was cool because one of the things that we used to talk about a lot was the power grid, right?
Yep.
We would talk about how our current president, wherever he is, speaking of politics again, where is he?
I don't know.
It's almost like he doesn't exist anymore. Um, so our president sold off 90% of our power grid to China. Awesome. So now we're trying to make up for the power consumption. Like, where are we going to get it from? And tech companies want nuclear power, which is genius. But there's a huge connotation to nuclear power because of Chernobyl, because of, well, any just nuclear power plants in general. I think people have a negative stereotype to them. But I think people severely underestimate the power of nuclear. But I was very fortunate to talk to someone named Jim Fallon through work, who he was like the number one nuclear. I don't exactly remember what he was, but he's like a nuclear physicist and stuff. You can look him up. He's pretty smart dude. But I asked him, I was like, what do you think of nuclear power? And he really blew my mind with the concept of how much power these can generate. Like, you can generate
Yeah.
entire states just with
Yes.
one nuclear power plant.
Yes.
And everyone complains about Chernobyl and, oh, this could happen again. You have to remember, Chernobyl, the reason Chernobyl happened was because of lack of safety precautions, I guess you can say. Like, nowadays, if you were to build a nuclear power plant, the odds of it exploding are so small, like astronomically small. Could it happen? Absolutely, but it's kind of the same. I think it's less of a chance than a plane going down, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's only as good as the country that puts it in and controls
Yeah.
it. And we have had issues with nuclear power plants, but yes, we went the wrong way with nuclear um, power in the sense that instead of running away from it, we should have figured out how to and continue to figure out how to perfect it because it is a very clean form of energy and gives you a lot of it. So for all these individuals who don't want fracking, they don't want natural gas, they want all these things, they're naive to the fact that that's not just used for power. We get a lot of our products from liquid
Yeah.
natural gas and whatnot. But having said that, the alternative for nuclear, they don't want that either. They want Green New Deal. That's another
Right.
farce that's really killing our economy. So many subsidies, so many things we're giving to these energy sources that just are not working. They're not efficient. And if they did work, it would have been used a long time ago. We're a capitalist country. Chevron and all these countries, they're not stupid. They want to make money. If all these things work, they would have implemented them a long time ago. They have not found a way to make those things cost effective and generate revenue. Nuclear Nuclear is a cheap form of massive amounts of energy. And we
Cheap in
talked about
comparison. Here's the
cheap
problem that this was actually a very good point that they brought up that I didn't even really think about. Nuclear can power a whole state, especially, and let's say it does half the state. Then all of a sudden you have what's essentially a monopoly, right? Because there's a certain amount of power that the power grid can take, and nuclear would actually go past that limit, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you can't have multiple power plants in an area unless you upgrade the grid.
Right.
Right. And that could take decades.
Yeah.
So let's say you have one power plant, maybe two in each state, because that can run pretty much everything. Now you only have one, say they want to turn it off tomorrow. Now you're giving all that power to one person. There's no competition. So now you have government run electricity. Ooh, that's a bad idea. Right.
Yeah.
So to their point, I don't know how you would do it. Maybe you would make smaller power plants, but then it's like, are you going to limit yourself just for the demonopolization of the energy?
Well, let's take a step back though. You know why these tech companies are so into it, right? Because we talked about this, was it 2 podcasts ago? They need more energy for the AI.
Yeah,
They
100%.
can't get it anywhere. So now all of a sudden that's their big push. We have to have more power, and all of a sudden they're loving nuclear. Okay.
Yeah.
Where were they 5, 10 years ago? They weren't pushing nuclear then. Now all of a sudden they're understanding about power grids and how it matters to them. Okay, nothing wrong with that, but it's not an altruistic, oh, we want to, you know, save the environment and do whatever. That's not what it's about.
Yeah.
And to your point, I always laugh at this. I was listening to an economist, obviously a pro Trump time because we saw the benefits of that economy. And it's not just about, we have to remember, yes, taxes and all these programs, but the fact that he deregulated so many things saved taxpayers so much money because you could get businesses and industries up and running and generating revenue and paying taxes and whatnot. So, you said, oh, it would take decades to put in an infrastructure. Would it really? I mean, in theory, if you didn't have so much government regulation, the desire's there if people really want to put these things in. I gotta believe, I'm not saying it could happen overnight, but really decades to put in the infrastructure for something like that?
Yeah, I
I
think
don't know.
I don't. Yeah, to your point,
Yep.
decades. I don't know if it would take decades, but it would probably take a decade because I think people kind of underestimate how hard it is to upgrade the power grid because the grid is, I mean, you might have to get new wiring that goes to every house. You have to
Mhm.
upgrade the box. So it is going to be timely. And then I look at how long it takes to build a road and I go, oh, this is going to take a while.
Well, and that's my point. They used to build roads in no time when we had fewer equipment and less technology.
Right.
But people worked. You didn't have the unions. You didn't have the regulatory. You didn't have the requirements of 50 people have to be there to do one light bulb or one street line, and you didn't need police. So that's my point. So many things that we used to be able to do relatively quickly to the time frame that it was in, as we've loaded up on more regulation and more government control of stuff, it makes it so much harder, more time consuming, and therefore more expensive to do these things that I'm really, if we reach the point where our biggest issue, and because I'm a conservative, we all know this, our government is too big. It's getting in the way of our country being productive and progressive. And I would love to see somebody take this type of business, this type of energy source, and say, really, if we cut out all the regulatory stuff, not safety, but the regulatory stuff, we could get it done in X number of years.
Yeah, and you're right. Yeah, if you were to do it that way. But my other question is, how I care more about the monopolization of it in the sense of these things. We severely underestimate how powerful these nuclear reactors are, and but in the sense of how much output they have.
Yeah.
And then I'm more concerned with just that monopoly aspect of, okay, so now we have one person or company or government entity running it. Okay, well, now that's a problem because now at that point they have control of our electricity. And electricity is everything now. It's how everyone runs their houses.
Yeah.
So I do think at some point in the future, not too far off, we are going to switch to nuclear just because it makes more sense. And hopefully the stigma behind nuclear will kind of start, the stigma will go down or disappear, and then people will realize, oh, this nuclear stuff's actually pretty nice.
Yeah, and I agree. It has to be perfected. I mean,
Yeah.
Even when we were doing the gas and the liquid natural gas, they've put in controls and measures and safety things. In the old days, it was a gusher that just came out. They barreled it and they sent it out. Now there's also environmental issues and whatnot that are legitimate that
Yeah.
you have to control it. But instead of saying, oh, we can't do natural gas anymore, let's walk away. The mistake we're doing now, for instance, all it's doing is costing people a lot of money and it's not improving the environment. It's not benefiting the environment. So we walked away from something where I say, let's try and perfect it and make it better, like nuclear. We just completely abandoned it for the most part in this country. I think we have a
Exactly.
few left versus saying, let's improve it. We had a leak, let's make it better. Let's learn from Chernobyl. What
Yeah.
happened, and that wasn't the only one. There's been others.
I think the reason that and when I was talking to Jim Fallon about it, the downside is if something were to go wrong, it is pretty catastrophic, like we saw with
Yeah.
Chernobyl. But
Yeah.
does the negative or the chance of that happening outweigh the benefits? And honestly, I'm at the point where I don't think it. I think it does. It does outweigh the negatives because now the odds of containing it and safely containing it is so much higher. But to your
Right.
point, we haven't done the research, and even Jim said that. He said the amount of science that went into it and was just completely given up on, the infrastructure, the engineering, it just gave up because everyone thought it was too dangerous. And again,
Right.
I've never seen how catastrophic Chernobyl actually was. We had that show, but you have to actually see the two-headed dogs, the fish
Yeah.
that can breathe air.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't go away because it's generational
Yeah.
because they pass the genetic defects on to, and it wasn't just that. It was so poor, they tried to hide it. So citizens were exposed and weren't told about it.
Right.
That's what made it worse. But, just as an aside, let's all keep in mind, I'm playing devil's advocate for the rest of the world to the US. There's a country right now who has pretty much a demented president who could launch a nuclear weapon at any time.
Yeah. I
So
think there's a
there's
few
some risk there.
countries.
Right, but I'm using this example of, our leader has obvious, and now everybody sees obvious cognitive difficulties. He has codes to the nuclear, not to say that hopefully there's things in place, like I said, security measures,
Yeah, we
but
talked
we
about that.
worry about a possibility of a plant exploding at any time. I could have any one of these nut jobs release a nuclear bomb anywhere around the world. And yes, it wouldn't be the same as a giant nuclear facility, but multiple ones around the world are pretty damaging, let me tell you, and have long-term effects. So, here we're worrying about the safety issues of a hypothetical nuclear plant where we literally have individuals right now who should be nowhere near nuclear codes, and they are,
Right.
putting everybody at risk.
I thought, I forget if Jim was talking to me about this, but I shouldn't use his first name in the sense of, I don't know him like that, but Mr. Fallon, he said, why don't we just put him underground, right? Contain it that way. And I said, can you do that? And he's like, yeah, we don't really go that deep into the Earth's crust anyway. If one explodes, it's pretty contained. So I don't know. It would be kind of like an earthquake, but it wouldn't be a large scale earthquake because you're not shifting any plates. But
But here's the thing, I don't know. We don't know. I have to trust the scientists on this.
yeah,
Because as little, and they may not know everything, but they certainly know more than you and I do.
right.
And I would like to think that they could work in concert with other, the first person I'd want on the board looking at that is somebody who dealt with Chernobyl.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
want
Yeah.
somebody there who saw what happened, and I would like them to be honest. And I don't know if their
I don't
government
know
will
if they
allow.
survived.
Oh no, some did. I mean,
Yeah.
there's some. Not everybody was in
Inside.
Chernobyl.
Yeah.
Right. Many of them came after the fact. And if you ever watch the series, it's an excellent series. If you ever watch the series, you learn from some of the people on the outside who saw things that were happening, saying something's not right here with the plant. And,
Yeah.
it's Hollywood too. So maybe it was, but they're basing it on what reports from people at the time. But that was also when we had more of an iron curtain, like they weren't sharing information and they tried to hide
Right.
it. When we get into nuclear, what affects the countries, you can't the countries will hide it, but it's really like I'm saying, this should be a cumulative effort and learning from people's mistakes as well. But countries don't want to admit they made those mistakes.
Well, Mr. Fallon also said, and he brought up a good point. Like, there's no reason for a nuclear power plant to be as big as they are. Like, you can make them so that like they're the size of just a normal building, just do
Yeah.
less energy, but they still power. I mean, a crazy amount of things. So he's like, so let's say one explodes, it's not much worse than a regular building exploding, which again is terrible. Don't get me wrong, but I mean, you can really limit the explosion. You don't have to do these
Yeah.
giant one-off nuclear reactors that would blow up a 100-mile radius.
Yeah, 'cause, I mean, we've had issues here. Indian
Yeah.
Point, I believe, was one, or was it Indian? No, Love, Pennsylvania, I think it was. It was contaminated the water. And for
Yeah.
those of you who watch the Ken Katucci podcast, you all know that your father was a security guard at a nuclear plant in New
Oh, I
York.
forget if Dad talked about that
Yeah,
on there.
and had to wear his crap out badge every day, to make sure if the
Yeah.
badge went to a certain level, there was too much
Yeah,
exposure.
did we talk about that? I don't remember if we talked about that with Dad.
Oh,
Maybe we
okay.
did.
I thought it
Yeah.
was on there, but yeah, you can work safely in those places. And there was one in Westchester, which was a very nice area of New York. I don't think they had problems, but I think they wound up closing it down.
Yeah, it's still there,
Um,
but it's closed down. And you look at it
Yeah.
over that hill and you're like, whoa, that thing's pretty big.
Yeah.
You're like, damn, that thing's
And
actually huge.
it's like anything else, you have to have security for it now because you got to worry about terrorists causing something
Yeah.
at a nuclear plant that could destroy a whole nation or a whole chunk of the country.
Yeah. Well,
And
it's not even just a destruction of the area, it's the radiation. The radiation's going to be what, yeah. So
Yeah.
I think people are scared of an explosion, of course, but you're forgetting about the radiation. The radiation goes farther than the explosion,
Yeah.
right? So,
And it's brutal. I mean, like I said, when you watch Chernobyl and you see the poor people, what they suffered when it when it
when it
first
happened.
happened, when they
Yeah.
were right there at the zone. And then as it spread out, right? And these individuals, I think they didn't have any iodine pills, they had nothing, and they were living very close to it. So it's, but it was also many, many years ago now,
Yeah.
too.
It was what, the 60s?
No, 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 no.
Chernobyl?
Later than that.
80s?
Yeah, I don't think Chernobyl. Yeah. I remember it when
Oh,
was
really?
it high school? College?
I only know what the situation was. I actually don't know the whole. Oh, 86. Okay.
Mm. 86. Yeah,
86,
that's
yeah.
about right. So I was in college at the
Yeah.
time. Yes, and I say I was in college and maybe I was naive, but I don't remember it being a huge story here in the States because they also contained it for a while and you didn't like drips and drabs of information came out, nobody really realized it, and they wanted to downplay it because I think they were trying to push nuclear stuff at the time, nuclear energy at the time, and then it kind of fell by the wayside. But yeah, it wasn't that long ago.
Now,
That's
okay,
true.
this is gonna sound kind of uh not bad. What's the word? Insensitive. But I thought a lot more people died in Chernobyl. I didn't realize it's only 30 people. Like the way people talk about it, like hundreds and hundreds of people died. But they said in decades since, so a total since Chernobyl that have died from the radiation and the explosion, it's been 90 people. Which again, terrible. But I think movies and when people talk about it, they make it sound
But
like
what are you reading that on? Start by saying what platform did you get? Not saying that it's
that
wrong,
was just
but you got to kind of
let's see how many
when was it written? Because if it was written in 1987, maybe by then, since then, many more have died.
because let's see.
I'm looking at Wikipedia. I don't
Yeah,
know if I go by that.
I'm doing the AI overview and the Wikipedia general. How many total deaths? The accident occurred, or the accident destroyed the Chernobyl 4 reactor, killing 30 operators and firemen within 3 months, and several further deaths. Only one person was killed immediately, and a second died in the hospital soon after injuries. Average response to when Chernobyl. Holy shit! Okay, now that's crazy. If that's true, ready? How long will it take for Chernobyl, the area to be habitable again is 20,000 years.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that is insane. But
Yeah.
yeah, so there's more tourists. So in 2021, Chernobyl had 73,000 tourists.
Yeah.
But
So I have now. This is the BBC. 31 people died immediate at Chernobyl. 50 deaths can be directly attributed. In 2005, it predicted a further 4,000 might eventually die as a result of the radiation exposure.
okay, so that's a predicted death. So yeah, I'm looking at that
Yeah.
as well. Additional 4,000 people could die from radiation exposure, including 5,000 thyroid cancers that could result in 15 fatalities. 20 years. Yeah, but see, I'm just saying, I thought it was a lot more. I'm gonna be honest, but either way, it's still horrible.
Well, it doesn't take a lot of individuals to run a nuclear power plant.
Right.
That was true back then also. And that's another quote unquote plus to it. And as I recall from the series, the problem happened because they were testing it. They were doing something with it, like running a regular test, and it created cracks in it, or it exposed the cracks.
Yeah, and
And by
then they have
doing
a
the
surge.
test,
They had a power
right,
surge,
and,
right?
and that's what started in the core. Like you have the core, that's where it started, and the core was not insulated enough. It cracked, and it started to come out and seep out, and that's when the shit hit the fan. But again, it goes back to what do we learn from that, rather than walking away from it. And it is scary. I mean, I'll be honest, it's scary to hear. One of the places we were looking at, I'm told there's a nuclear power plant not too far away. Great for energy, but on the flip side, I'm like, oh, that can't be good if something happens,
Yeah,
right? So
you're playing
I don't
odds.
know. Yeah,
Yeah. Again, I
if they,
think Chernobyl is one in how many power plants? How many nuclear power plants are there in the world? Let's see.
I don't know, but I do remember the Love Canal, I think it was called. The Love Canal. It was something nuclear seeped into the water and Love Canal. And people didn't know about it and they were all getting very sick. Yeah, Love Canal disaster.
Okay. Well, okay, that's interesting. Ready? There are 440 nuclear reactors, right? 30
Right.
in operation in 32 countries. The United States has the most in operation with 94. So then here's my question. if we have 94 nuclear power plants, what are they used for? Because they're not using them for energy, just
Wow.
experimentation, just creating
Well, I
nuclear
don't know if
waste
they're
and
active at
radiation.
all. They might have, yeah, they might have just shut it down. The other problem you have, and
This
maybe
one
Mr.
says in
Fallon can answer this
operation, just so
better.
you know. So
Yeah.
it
Oh,
says,
it is
yeah,
operating.
it says we have
The
94 in
only
operation.
one of the problems we have with nuclear is what do you do with the
Waste.
waste,
Yeah.
nuclear waste? They were putting them in glass containers and burying it in the earth, and they were taking it out to sea. They had all these ideas of what do we do with the nuclear waste. I don't know how valid that is. I don't know if that was a scare tactic. I just remember that being a really uh, big issue when they were hyping the nuclear, I want to say 20, 30 years
Makes
ago.
sense. I don't know what you
Pardon me?
do with it. You have to maybe that comes with the research of what we could do with it. Because I don't know,
Right,
maybe there is something you can do with that waste, like
right.
recycle it or something. But I have no clue.
And
But
that's what I'm saying. Instead of running away from it, maybe we need to explore, are there better ways of doing it? And that's,
yeah,
it's always nice to say that, but I looked up Love Canal. Love Canal, they were dumping toxic chemicals into the water sources.
yeah,
Okay?
that you can't have. Like that, you would think
E-
that that was just common sense. Don't
Right,
dump that in the water.
right.
Yeah,
But that's the point. If you don't have smart people working on these things and ethical people, you wind up getting corporations that trash the environment worse than nuclear power plants did over time in some
right,
cases. So it's like anything else. You always have to perfect the process. And if you're going to allow,
absolutely.
I think that to me is more the role of government, and that's how I think it always should have been. You let the private sectors do what they do because they can do it the cheapest way because that's their goal to maximize profits. But government should intervene to make sure it stays safe. They shouldn't take it over. You need smart people making sure whatever that industry is thriving and is safe for the people. It's not complicated. But then government decides to get involved because they make money, they take it over. Socialism, right? We'll run these businesses and we'll make it free for everybody or the same price. And that's when it starts to get screwed up.
All right. All right, let's move on just because we're running out of time.
Yeah, sure.
In the sense of my mother has a.
Oh, not this guy again. I can't get rid of Dr.
I
Disrespect.
told you, my mom went from, oh, I didn't hear about this to now he's everywhere, right? Dr. Disrespect is bleeding numbers as he prepares for his big stream return. So he took a month off. Now he's coming back. Now, this is kind of interesting because he had a post the other day that was like him playing chess and everyone else is playing checkers. Kind of weird. But so what's interesting is no new information has come out on the situation except for the fact that apparently that Twitch person, that employee that brought this to everyone's
Yeah.
attention, completely over exaggerated, or there's a lot of exaggerations of what happened.
Right.
But with this ban, he starts coming back, and the question is, he's losing subscribers right now. Right? He's lost a total of 70,000 subscribers.
Yeah.
When you have 10 plus million, I don't know if that's really going to affect you very much. So the question is, what kind of comeback is this going to be? Is this going to be a whole different person of, I'm just going to shit on everyone? Because he was doing that on Twitch, right? People would comment and he would just rip into them.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like a villain arc, if you will.
Yeah.
So the question is, what's going to happen? There's obviously going to be kids and people that are going to support him, and maybe he'll still make money in donations and stuff, unless they take away his monetization, which is definitely possible. But I don't think sponsors are going to work with him anymore. I think at this point, he can only do it for the love of the game, of like Twitch streaming and stuff. Kind of like how I do, in the sense of I make no money, but I love doing it.
Right. But he's making money and it's his business. So,
Right. But, here's the thing. He's a guy that has made so much money. If you took away all of his sponsorships and he couldn't stream ever again on any platform, he's got enough money where he can retire. He's done. He's made tens of millions of dollars. Right? He's probably worth 50 or 60 million at this point. So, again, that's why I think he's just doing it because he loves it, not because he cares about the backlash. But this is a guy that he's smart in the sense of he knows what he's walking into. He knows his entire chat is going to be him getting ripped into about this whole situation. He probably won't even be able to explain himself. I'm sure he's in lawsuits right now with Twitch trying to figure out what the best course of action is on how to get rid of this. The weird thing to me that I don't think we'll ever get an answer on is, if this was 100% true and it's what we were all thinking, why was this not or why was he not banned or not just banned? Why did it not come to public knowledge 2 years ago when it happened, or 4 years ago, however long ago it was. Right? There's just too many.
Yeah.
There's too many questions that I would have, because with anyone else, let's say you settle, okay, and there's no law or anything, you can't just settle on a case like this. Given he didn't meet with the minor, so maybe that's a factor. I learned recently. I didn't remember that Chris Hansen show where he would find all those. He was that guy. He had that TV show where he would just catch pedophiles. Like he would.
Oh,
trick
yes.
them. Yeah. None of those people get arrested. They get put on a registry, but you're not actually doing any illegal act. The actual act of talking to a minor isn't a crime. It's once something sexual happens, that's when the crime happens. So technically,
or if you plan to meet with them across state borders,
yes.
state lines.
Yes.
That's
so
a crime.
That Chris Hansen guy, the people would be put on a list, but they wouldn't be arrested. So that's what I think is this kind of thing could have been 4 years ago, where it's, he was talking to an alleged minor. But then here's what's weird, and this is not exactly factual just yet, but Twitch was actually paying employees, or had a sector that would try and catch streamers being like attracted to minors or whatever.
Yep.
So technically he's not talking to a minor, he's talking to someone who's of age pretending to be a minor and then getting caught.
Yes.
So now we're in a fine line, right? And now we're seeing, it was an actual minor, but she lied about being of age, and then the day of told him. Again, we'll never know the true info, but it is weird watching this comeback here, because I'm very curious what happens. Does he make this crazy comeback, which I don't know if that's really possible, or does this just crash and burn? Does this just hurt him even more?
Well, I think culturally, if we've learned nothing else over the last, let's say, 5 years, unfortunately, and this has to change, pedophilia is becoming acceptable. We saw this with Nickelodeon. We're seeing this with our politicians.
Can I pause you real fast, Mom? So what's funny is, and I was going to bring this up, about 6 other YouTubers in the last week have been caught for some kind of act. Of pedophilia. Big YouTubers. Not, and like big in the sense of like that, not like a Markiplier or a Dr. Disrespect level, but probably like one level underneath, I would say. Like in the zombies community, which is not the biggest, it's not a very big community. But I'm part of that community technically. Like even that's having problems. I'm like, what's going on with these people getting celebrity status or a little bit of power, and now all of a sudden we have minor attracted people? How are these people becoming famous? Right? How are they getting this power? But maybe there is something to the whole power, Epstein Island idea. You get power, and then all of a sudden you're in this boat. So,
well, keep in mind the VP that Kamala Harris picked signed the law protecting pedophiles from discrimination.
Excuse me, minor attracted people.
Well, the thing I'm looking at shows pedophiles from discrimination. But that's your point. They're trying to make it a euphemism. It's not a big deal. It's not a crime. I just read today, I think he was retired, but a Republican senator, Nebraska maybe, or Idaho, or Arkansas, one of those places, was just indicted for flying overseas with underage, might have been specifically boys. Old guy. But in that country, it's consensual at 15.
Yeah,
okay? That's the excuse this jackass is trying to make, or I don't even know if he's making an excuse at this point. He's no guy. But this is what I'm saying. It is rampant. Every day you're reading about some politician of either party, or scary. There's a school principal that was just indicted in some state.
Yeah.
For pornography, child pornography. I mean, it's rampant. And unfortunately, you have to really scrub places where kids are, like school districts, teachers, superintendents. We are seeing an explosion. And no, it's not just the Catholic priests, right? It was easy to come down on the Catholic priests. I agree. It's a crime. It should have been better. But it's exploding to me compared to what went on in the Catholic Church, what you're seeing in public schools every day, and the kids getting younger. So in answer to Dr. Disrespect, I think this will probably blow over. I'll be honest. I think
this one gets blown over because we still don't have all the information, and we're talking like a 17-year-old who was lying potentially, or someone who wasn't even actually 17 and was just trying to catch him in a trap, essentially. So in that sense, I think to your point, it's going to blow over. I don't think it's going to blow over for these actual people like Ava Tyson from Mr. Beast, because we have evidence of you posting, and we'll get to that in a second because that's my next article. But you're posting in Discord with minors pornography, right? Even if it's not you, you're still showing pornography to young kids. Right. So
Right.
yeah, that's yeah.
But again,
I'm
Chris, I mean,
curious.
it's a gray area because, now we're seeing what's going on in schools. We can go down that path. And it's actual pornography that they're showing little children in school. By definition, in reality, they're trying to wrap it in some sort of package of, well, it's okay because they don't know their gender and gender education, all this stuff. Baloney. It's just pure pornography and you're grooming little children. Just because it's coming from a teacher in a school doesn't make it right. Just because the school board is saying, yeah, yeah, let's let it go, doesn't make it right. And who gets to decide that? I'll tell you. The parents get to decide that.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah.
Same thing with libraries. The garbage going on in libraries that for underage people. So to turn around and say, oh, well, it's wrong when these YouTubers do it, it's going on every day in a classroom. So try and square that circle of it's wrong here, but it's okay there.
Right. Yeah. All right, let's move on to the last one. Now, this is the one that I want to talk about. This is becoming more of a big deal than we all kind of expected it to be. So, this is the Mr. Beast incident, which we kind of talked about last week.
Yep.
Which was the whole Chris Tyson, Ava Tyson thing. Now, that's kind of a separate story in the sense of, as we just talked about, he had a whole Discord thing. But now we're talking about the actual things that Mr. Beast has done that I'm in question of, and here's why. So basically, I don't know if you've ever seen a Mr. Beast episode, Mom, but
No.
basically he does a lot of game shows. He's kind of like the YouTube version of game
Oh,
shows.
yeah.
He'll have
Yeah,
people
it's
on.
funny.
Yeah.
Yep.
So now all of a sudden they're going into the whole like, oh, these are fake. A lot of the people are coming out now and talking about how unsafe the work environments were for money and all this stuff. Now they're doing a full-on investigation, and here's my problem with this. These are people that, so he picks random subscribers. If you're subscribed, you get invited and whatever. In my eyes, and you tell me if I'm crazy here, if I'm going to sign a petition to potentially win a lot of money and then lose, and now you're on a podcast talking about how bad the conditions were and stuff because you want money, then I go, oh, hold on. Are you just trying to get something out of this in the end because you didn't win and you got hurt while you were trying to do this competition? Because that happens in like Ninja Warrior. Remember that show, Ninja Warrior?
Yes.
Yeah. So if you got hurt, you can't sue them for, oh, I fell, broke my arm or whatever on the course. There's liability waivers and all that. He does the same thing. You have to sign a waiver to be on these game shows and stuff just for legal purposes and stuff. Now all of a sudden you're talking about how unsafe it is. That's where I go.
Well,
This is kind of
anybody can sue in the U.S. Anybody can sue anybody for anything. You might lose because you signed a non-disclosure, you signed a liability sheet, but it doesn't mean you can't still sue. You can still say, well, this was outside of what I signed, right? This non-disclosure does not, non-disclosure agreements do not necessarily allow you or give you freedom for someone to not say, hey, I was sexually harassed at that job, right? Because that's a law that's broken. You can't have a non-disclosure say, hey, we're going to break the law and you can't say anything, right? Or that's a really gray area. So if something was going on in this Mr. Beast production facility, whatever, that they were breaking the law, that's not covered under liability or non-disclosure things. People can bring it to the attention that, hey, this guy is breaking the law somehow, and I could sue them for that if I was harmed in the process. I just a couple comments I would say is, boy, that things turned pretty bad for this individual, and I don't know his show or anything, ever since this whole Ava situation started, right? The third person who came out. Okay. This individual, Mr. Beast, at the time, I remember you bringing it up, went out of his way to support Ava, right? And not make an issue.
Yes.
And just keep going with the show as the person is, right? And the first reaction is say, hey, that's great. That's wonderful. Okay, there's two things I would say. Maybe he really meant it, and boy, isn't that biting him on the ass now because he's still taking crap for it. Or maybe he knew a lot of this crap was going on and he didn't want this stuff to come out.
Which is what it sounds
and
like.
went out of his way to support the individual at the time. And guess what? It's biting him on the ass.
Yeah.
So it really makes you wonder if Mr. Beast could go back in time. Would he change his approach to things, and say, what I thought was going to help me and tamp down a lot of controversy is giving me more of a headache than if I just dealt with it back
Yeah,
then. And maybe they talked about firing the individual because he wasn't being honest with the
sure.
show, I remember. But Mr. B supported him and let him stay on, et
Yeah.
cetera, et cetera.
But my issue with this isn't so much the whole Mr. Beast issue. It's the fact that these people who have been, he's been doing these game shows for years. Now all of a sudden
Yeah.
you're coming out and now we're talking about it. Like now you want to be on these podcasts. There's a lady that had a problem with Mr. Beast. Rose was whatever her name is. I haven't heard of her in years. Now on Twitter she's going on these full rants, basically trying to investigate Mr. Beast, say how bad these games are, and it's like, well, hold on. Now you want to bring this up when it's, I mean, they did the creator, every now and then he does like a creator tournament, which is just YouTubers, and she lost over some I don't know if it was a vote or whatever, but now all of a sudden you're going to come out and really talk about it because now you have a platform. And
Wait a minute, it works both ways. All these kids that were paid a lot of money and given shows on Nickelodeon, now they're coming out as adults after they made their money, and now they're making
right.
accusations. Now you could make the case they were kids at the time and
Well,
they didn't know better,
right.
and now they're
There's
adults.
also the case though, and this is where it's very different. Those kids in Nickelodeon, they're under contracts with TV shows. These are one-off people. I can be on a Mr. Beast video tomorrow because I'm subscribed. It's not like I'm working for him. I'm just on a video.
Okay.
So I just have to sign a waiver that says I'll do this. So to say that it's kind of, oh, I was just waiting to come out because I was under some higher pressure was pushing me down doesn't really
Yeah.
work, right? Because you can
Well,
talk about it
when
legally.
you're on his shows, how is that an unsafe work environment? Isn't that just a one-time thing?
It's usually one
Or
time
was-
thing. Sometimes you'll get asked back if you were like a good, what? Sometimes they'll do games of like, oh, the top winners can come back, but you still have
So
to
I'm just
re-sign a
curious,
waiver.
how are you in fostering an unsafe work environment if you're only on for one or
One day,
two?
exactly. Thank you, mother. So the
Okay.
idea
I
is,
didn't
yeah,
understand the whole who these. I assume this was his staff. These were long-term employees,
just
people
random
around all the time.
subscribers. Some were. Now
Yeah.
they're talking about some of the winners being workers, and it's kind of weird. But again, there's too many. This feels like the pile on, right? The whole,
Right.
now that this guy's in trouble, maybe I can get some money out of this. Let me start throwing him. Oh, I was on something 3 years ago and I didn't feel safe. It's like, why are you bringing it up now, 3 years later, when
So
oh,
let's
and you're
play
oh, and
devil
you're
advocate.
also and then the
He
ones that are like, oh yeah, it was hard. Here's a GoFundMe that you can give money to so that I can make up for the mental trauma from the game. I was like, what?
let's turn the tables and
Sure.
say Mr. B should call them all transphobic. They're all coming after him after his friend, person part of the show, came out as being transgender. Now these people coming out of the woodwork and attacking him in his show, so they must all be transphobic, right? They're anti him because he supported. I'm just saying, this is the game that can be played both ways. God forbid imagine if he turned on Ava at the time and kicked person off the show and whatnot,
Yeah,
he'd be
true.
labeled transphobic. Now the tables are turned, and I'd like to see his lawyers turn the tables on individuals who think now they're going to come after him. Use it to your advantage. They must all be transphobic. They didn't complain when Ava was just, now all of a sudden I'm supporting a transgender person. They're all coming out of the woodworks and coming after me and saying a word. They must all be transphobic, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
That's
to your
because I
point, it
support
works both
transgender.
ways. So it's just weird. The timing's the issue to me. The whole let's pile on now because this whole incident's happening when people are talking about things from years ago.
Shouldn't it have something to do? I'm assuming that it's all coming after this whole issue with the transgender individual, right?
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
not he didn't get caught talking to underage people or anything,
No,
correct?
the full story, Mom, is they have a Discord server, right? And this is kind of
Yeah.
besides this whole argument, but they had a Discord server, right? And you had moderators. So for my server, I'm the moderator, Kenny and Mike are moderators, and then some of my friends.
Right.
So Jimmy's a moderator because he owns Mr. Beast. He's Mr. Beast. Ava was a moderator. Chandler was
Yeah.
a moderator. And you can make hidden channels in Discord, so only certain people can see it. And from what it sounds like, Ava Tyson had a channel that had certain minors in it that was hidden to everyone else, where he was just
Gotcha.
posting porn to children. Now, Jimmy, being a moderator as well, can see that channel. So it's stuff
Okay.
depending on how it's set up. Again, I don't know if I don't know why Ava would have more power than Jimmy when it's his channel, but that's besides the point. But
Yeah.
the concept is Jimmy knew about it. tried to delete everything and told an employee to delete everything in there. And that's the argument. He knew about it but did nothing. Again, that's all alleged. We don't have any proof of that. We just have he said, she said. Multiple employees have said, yeah, there was something in there that I was paid to take down. And yeah, that's just where it goes. Oh, okay. So yeah, that's what I mean.
I still go back to my original comment that, boy, a lot of headaches sprung out for this man, individual. Maybe deservedly so, I don't know, but ever since his other moderator decided to be transgender, which you would think should have nothing to do with anything other than a lot of headaches for this individual on his channel now.
The issue's not the trans issue. The issue is what the trans person was doing with these minors. The minor part's the issue.
I mean, that's my point. I'm using that as just that from the time of that person and whatever that person was doing, what a lot of headaches for Mr. Beast, who went out of his way to support this individual. And boy, isn't this biting him on the ass? It's like he didn't need these headaches. Now people are coming out, and maybe he should have been aware of this channel. Maybe he should have known what was going on. Doesn't matter. It could have been a non-transgender person having this kind of porn channel, as we're learning. We were saying, all people from all walks of life are having these illegal situations going on. Yeah. But boy, it sure seems to trace back to that. Or I don't know, maybe it was going on before this individual came out as a trans person. Yeah. Do we know how long ago this started that they had this?
It's funny you say that. So it was like right after all this stuff started spewing in the company. That's when he transitioned. Isn't that interesting? So
interesting.
Yeah. So that, again, this is all he said, she said, and we have to see more information on it. But that seems to be the consensus based on timelines. But now here's another thing I want to talk about real fast. This is probably a longer conversation, but we don't have that much time. When you have a company like YouTube and you have all of us as YouTubers, should YouTube get involved at some point? I have to think that YouTube should get involved because we're quote unquote employees of Google. So does YouTube and Google have to do something to look into this stuff? Because now my question is, how many YouTubers that no one knows about who have small communities are doing this exact same thing with the pedophilia or showing
That's what I was just saying. It's exploding on every platform, in every institution. You know, you always had these individuals in around children, basically, and it was limited to school. But now you have individuals that are in their home, in their bedroom, through their media, through their apparatuses, and it's a pathway to a child.
Yeah.
Any case where there's a pathway to a child has to be watched and monitored.
Absolutely.
We've talked about like Facebook having issues with people being abducted, children and whatnot, because their faces were posted on Facebook, right? Do they control that? No, but they were supposed to be doing it and they didn't, right? Somebody contacted Facebook. Somebody said, hey, this girl was abducted. Her face was on there. You need to do something. They didn't do anything. We talked probably last year about that happening with Facebook. Legally, they are supposed to do certain things. I believe that they're required to monitor this, but I think it's overwhelming. I mean, I have to believe there's a way to do it. If they're able to do algorithms for everything else, there must be a way for them to identify when people post any sort of questionable image.
Yeah. I think Discord actually has to step in more, and I think they said they are because of this situation. But again, it's us YouTubers are our own companies, right? And Jimmy has a big company that he pays employees and stuff. But YouTube is still, in the end, the one that, well, Google's the one that signs our checks and whatnot and it's transferred. But they're technically our employer. So at what point do they have to get involved? And I think because of how big YouTube gets, and I'm someone that believes that YouTube does have to manage a ton of people that how many YouTubers are there? There's over 10 million channels all over the world, more than that. So you have to have some section of YouTube that monitors a little bit. Like I think YouTube, and this is going to sound kind of opposite of what we talk about in government, but I do feel like YouTube has to have more of a hand in these more serious channels. And by serious, I mean the ones that are not posting one video a year or just because they want to, but the ones that are making a living on YouTube. If you're going to get paid by YouTube and Google through monetization and advertisements and whatnot, YouTube should have a say in what you like. If YouTube told me what I can and can talk about and whatnot, I'm okay with that because you're my employer. But you don't give us any real guidelines. And because of that, stuff like this happens.
Well, hey, I would have a real problem if I was a YouTuber who's been censored or demonetized because of comments that were made, and meanwhile somebody's
Or channel
posting
strikes.
or channel strikes, and meanwhile somebody is posting outright pornography to young children,
In a
and
Discord
it
server, though, not on YouTube. So that's a little,
okay,
yeah.
then I should clarify that. But if that's the case, you can't really have it both ways. But I'll also say, is it really fair to go after an individual who's posting this stuff and prosecute them? And meanwhile, a teacher is having an affair with a 13-year-old that's been going on for a year, and I'll say she, gets a slap on the wrist.
Yeah.
Okay, we're back to it's got to be fair, right? And it has to have teeth, in my opinion. It has to have meaning if you're going to really cut back on this. And I agree with you. If they are employing you, meaning they write a check to you, and it is their platform, they should be responsible for it. But agree, it's overwhelming to have to monitor this. But on the flip side, they're making a shitload of money, and the least thing they could do is find a way, with all the technology out there, to automatically pick up on these individuals and boom, right away have a process. I don't care who you are, conservative, liberal, male, female, don't know your gender. Boom, a process goes out where here's your first strike. If I see another video, your platform's done.
Yeah.
No
And I think
questions
that's
asked.
fair. But those are the guidelines we need, not these pseudo guidelines that you dance around what we can and can't say, which I would rather you say to my face what I can and can't say, and I'll abide by those rules. But you can't just kind of be like, I don't feel today that's like when you're talking about COVID.
Abide, or you'll assess if that works for you. Because you have a right to say, you know what, that's your rules,
Right.
but I'll take my platform somewhere else.
Yeah, that's
If
what
you're
I'm saying.
allowed.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and YouTube's nice in the sense of, let's say there's something we want to talk about that normally would not, besides algorithmically, like maybe that brings you down to the algorithm, but they just say, you can say that, you just can't monetize, right? And I'm
Right.
okay with that. That's different than
Right.
channel strikes and stuff. That's a different story. But yeah, again, I do wish that there were more guidelines as to, yes, you can say this, no, you can't. Yes, you can do this, no, you can't. So, but that's besides the point. Now I'm going on a little bit of a tangent.
Pornography, that's
I
an
think
easy
we
one,
all agree on that one. Yes.
right? Well, we say that, but do they turn a blind eye if that particular site's making money? I don't know. I would hope not.
Yeah.
But maybe they don't care as long as it's making money until somebody makes a stink.
My problem with YouTube right now is the fact that this whole thing's coming out and they still haven't made any statements yet. And it's not really their job, but YouTube's he's their poster child, right? The
Right.
Mr. Beast. So that's why this is such a big hit to them, which is why we had the thing this week that you and I talked about, which is why with YouTube. So I think that's part of the reason.
So they get brought in.
Yeah.
They don't want to get involved,
Exactly.
right? Because that's going to open up a huge can of worms for them in terms of all the other little people, right? You can't just have one policy for Mr. Beast and different policies for everybody else.
But all right, Mom. Well, we just did about an hour and a half, maybe a little less because we talked beforehand, but that's pretty much it. I don't think we have anything else to really talk about. So the only things I have to promote, obviously the podcast last week. This one comes out on Monday. I'm going to stop posting on Sundays the speed runs. I'm going to add those to the videos during the week just in case I don't have any. We posted the Callisto protocol last week for the speed run. We got another one coming out, so that comes out on Wednesday. We finished the walkthrough for Crystalla. Hopefully the developers are okay with, we're happy with that walkthrough because that was the one that they asked me to do for them. And then what else did we post? I feel like I posted a couple videos this week, but yeah, either way. Jason and I are going to start doing the Easter eggs for Skur Ritual, which we'll start getting those out pretty quickly. And then we're just getting ready for Black Myth Wukong, which comes out the 22nd. And then getting ready for Black Ops 6 in November. So, yeah, that's pretty much the plan for the next couple weeks. That's about it. So, yeah. Social media down below, promo codes down below, Discord down below. And we will see you guys next week. Probably with Mom again. I think I might see if someone else wants to do the podcast, but I'll let you know. And that's pretty much it. So we'll see you guys.